everyone, and welcome to the Weekly Woo. So this week, a lot of cards came out. I'd like to start with our animal spirit, which is Dragonfly this week. Whenever Dragonfly comes in as a teacher, as a guide, it is an invitation to see beyond the veil, meaning what we perceive with the human eye, with the five senses, is such a small amount of what's actually happening around us. We live in a multidimensional world and we're multidimensional beings. So the spirit of Dragonfly is all about that metamorphosis. If you look at how a dragonfly from egg to larva, pupa, like how it transforms itself, yes, very similar to a butterfly, but there's always been something even more transcendent about the dragonfly. That it's usually in sort of swampy areas where water is standing, that deeper, darker element of water. And this leads me to our next card, which was Borderland, but it was in reverse. Now, with this deck, Borderland refers to the boundary spaces, right? Which is actually where dragonflies live. They live between the flowing water and the sort of swampy water, the standing water. Borderland being reversed speaks to our hidden realms, our shadow side. And specifically this week, I want to speak to the shadow side of fear. That fear is very much possibly our biggest obstacle as a species. And when fear presents itself in our personal life, it is usually an indicator that we have an opportunity to flip to that opposite polarity, which is love, if we do not run from the fear. So Borderland upside down is saying, look at your fears. There is material in them that will help you progress to the other side, that will help you get to the next step of whatever it is you want, perhaps in that project or relationship or situation. Now, it can indicate that there's certain fears and doubts you're having that are accurate and you need to pay attention to them. Now, we're coming out of Pisces season. Venus is also going to be moving into Aries, following the sun, which went into Aries yesterday. So there is this borderland that we're in, coming out of the Pisces season, going into Aries, the fire season. All planets are still direct. They will be direct until the end of April. It's a time for forward motion, but there's this hesitancy we may feel as we want to let fear perhaps be the guide. But this card is saying the fear is not the guide. It's actually an illusion that you've created in your mental body, and it's meant to be looked at so that you can, once you let it go, you look at it, let it go. This is river and stream, flowing and evolving. Letting the fear go, looking at it, or letting it catapult you like you're shooting down a river to the other side of the fear energy, which is love. Fear usually comes up when we're afraid we're going to lose something, be that a part of ourselves, a relationship, a project, a person, whatever it is. And it reminds us, if we're brave enough to sit with it, that actually the action to take is usually more of a commitment towards what we love, putting more attention to it. Fertile new role. Here we are in the spring. It's time to plant the garden. All planets direct. We just really have an opportunity throughout the rest of March and April to make a ton of forward progress. But when we get these kind of cards, I really feel like the progress that we should be focusing on is that transformation of this illusion of fear, that the fear of the other, the fear of ourselves, the fear of the power we each individually have to make the changes, to actually go get what we want. Oftentimes I feel like when I'm working with clients and even speaking with friends and loved ones, what we tend to fear the most is what we will do with our success and power if we achieve it. It's not so much what will happen if we don't get it, because in that moment, we technically don't have it. It's the fear comes from, who will I be if I do achieve that? Will I lose myself? Will I become, a horrible, bad person? Will I go to the dark side, right? The fear of going to the dark side. So the Borderland is saying, look at these fears. And specifically, you guys, I really think this is, look at the fear that you have of yourself. Maybe the fear of your own emotions, the fear of your anger, the fear of your grief, the fear of your sadness. Look at them. Now, 4 cards popped out of this deck. So Violet was the last one. Keep things simple. And there's a saying in recovery programs, keep it simple, stupid, which I don't totally love, just because let's not call anybody stupid, especially ourselves. But this idea of the simplicity that follows when we stop running from our fear. When you just stop and you just admit, I'm really scared of XYZ. You allow someone else to witness it, or you write it down. And then you ask yourself, when was the first time I experienced this kind of sensation, this kind of feeling, this kind of knot? There's really nothing more simple than that, than to go back and be like, okay, this is not just something that's happening in the moment. This is a pattern of illusion that I can unravel, that I can dissolve, so that I can walk into this fertile new role and really be creating what I love. And also I think, as I'm working with my son who's working through what fear is and certain fears he's having, one of the things that I've been thinking about is, I'm not sure if we can eradicate fear altogether, because fear is this healthy part of our ego that says, a buffalo is running towards you, like, turn around, get out of the way. There is a part of the warning system within the animal part of the body that is really valuable. And perhaps this week there's going to be an opportunity to listen to that warning system, so that we don't want to demonize fear, because it can alert us to where we need to shift, and shift fast. But we don't want fear to be leading us, right? It's like, it's a tool. It's not the player. You're the player. And you have this opportunity to walk into a fertile new role, a sense of fulfilling your path and purpose. 2020 really showed us, what are our values? What do we want? And now in 2021, we are given just a fertile pasture to plant those seeds and to see, what is going to stick. And then as it's growing, I'm dealing with a garden now. As it's growing, you have to decide, what are you going to keep? What are you going to focus on? Give the most light. What do you need to take out so that something else can grow? And I think this week, that's what we're going through as we transition. Our crystal was peach calcite. Its key word in this deck is harmonize. The essential oil that works with this particular crystal in this particular modality is geranium, which I highly recommend, if you work with essential oils, or even if you don't, to explore this particular essential oil. It is incredibly uplifting. It's so powerful to lift the spirit, lift the mood. But also, what I really love about it, I have in my life, in the late afternoon, I sort of get into this slumpy space, and it's a time where, exercising is difficult, and I don't really have time to take a nap, but I need something to open myself to higher vibration. And a great way to do that is this one particular oil, geranium. And it's not because it gives you a sense of like a burst of energy. It's because it does exactly this. It harmonizes your space. It harmonizes the sense of, I gotta, or, I'm so exhausted. It just puts you in the moment. And I love that we got violet, because these are actually wild violets that are actually growing all around the grass where I am right now. And I've been so moved and touched by watching them come up, because even when the grass was mowed, a day and a half later, there was like a whole nother batch of them that have sprung out. And they are close to the ground. It's very much, indicative of fairy magic and the fae, this sense of wildflower that you can't plant it. It's its own creature. It's going to come out at its own time. And it only has a short window of time that it presents itself to us in this physical world. And the simplicity of them, because they are so small, they grow only like about this big in the grass, making like the space that we walk on this beautiful bed of like what magic and beauty. So somewhere this week, this is going to make sense to you too, where the simplicity of the beauty of spring being something that allows you to deconstruct whatever it is you're holding onto. Because really, as we move forward this year, this Saturn-Uranus square is going to consistently be asking us to change in huge ways, to change the structure of our life, to change how we see maturity, to change where we're being disciplined and how we're being disciplined. And it's so important that we take on this whole energy as like a creative project in itself, so that the process is enjoyable, the process is pleasurable. I think about this flowing and evolving down the river, the idea of letting go so that the current can take you, and the trust that you're going where you need to be going. I think there's nothing more simple than, that word faith and that word trust, that you're going to be taken care of and you can handle anything that comes your way. As we were talking about fears earlier, the Borderland card, I believe the antidote to fear is really acknowledging that you've been able to overcome every challenge that you've encountered thus far. That is going to continue. You can handle anything that comes your way. So really, what is there to fear? We can go into lots of scenarios. Right? That's what the news is great at. But in reality, you can't handle anything. Look at all of us, what we've traversed in 2020 and what here we are in 2021 in a very different energy, working on how authentic can we be? How aligned with our true values can we be? And oftentimes, you guys, what I'm finding, I don't know about you, is that the simpler, the better. Go back to the basics. And that same thing about fear. Go back to the basics of fear. When did you first experience that sense of fear or worry or anxiety? Take it all the way back to the root. Pull it out. You got to weed the garden so that the garden can be fertile. So maybe there's some weeding we need to do. And maybe that weeding is looking at the fear and then, letting it go, taking it out of the garden. And I love this idea that your life you are cultivating a garden. The garden, your relationships are a part of that. Your work is a part of that. Your health is a part of that. Everything you do is a part of your personal heaven on earth. And I really truly believe that we are meant to enjoy that process. We are meant to enjoy this. And so with Venus this week, it's going to be joining the sun. This is a Venus star point that we're experiencing. So the question is, what do you value now? What are you going to go for? Where are you going to put your heart? Because that is really the main question of the week. Venus is on a new trajectory now. Where are you going to put your heart? Where are you going to grow beauty in your life? I hope this helped you guys. Bye.